Good morning, Rebels, and welcome back to my life. So yesterday's video was a perfect little springboard for a much broader topic, the subject of censorship. Censorship is really tricky. There's different types of censorship. There's different levels of censorship. At its most basic, what is the actual meaning of the word censorship? Merriam-Webster defines it as the institution, system, or process of censoring, and a censor as an official who screens material for offensive subject matter. Now that use of the word official is pretty important here. It denotes someone in a position of power who uses that power to suppress a certain type of communication. Now this tells us immediately that you choosing to turn off your television when the news comes on in your own living room is not censorship. That is not an official decision. That is one person. But this doesn't mean that all censorship comes from the government. For example, the Motion Picture Association of America can effectively censor a film by giving it an NC-17 rating, meaning that nobody will see it because it's probably porn. But that's a bit of a problem because they're totally fine with us watching the Saw movies where people carve each other's skin off and stuff. But God forbid we portray two adults having consensual sex with each other because the kids might get ideas. Now that being said, for most people the rating system is fairly innocuous, and sometimes I've been really glad to have a movie rating system in place. Like recently when I saw the trailer for the film Chappie, I was like, oh, I should go see this with my kids. This looks great. And then I noticed the film was rated R, so I went to go see it without my kids first. And yeah, it turns out that that was a really bad trailer because while the film is great, it's not appropriate for my children at this stage of their lives. The only problem with rating systems is that by their nature, they're very arbitrary, like the aforementioned fact that we're completely fine with showing brutal violence and death, but not sex. And if we're talking about sex, how much sex is too much? What types of sex are too much? Why is it that an attractive boob is much more likely to get an R rating than an unattractive boob? And who decides what's an unattractive or attractive boob? I just want to take a second to state for the record, I think they're all pretty awesome. Language is also very dicey. Kevin Smith's movies get an R rating because he drops a lot of F-bombs, but Quentin Tarantino's movies also get an R rating because he drops a lot of F-bombs and, you know, kills people. Is one equal to the other? Does Chasing Amy really deserve the same movie rating as Reservoir Dogs? You also got retailer censorship, which can certainly be a problem for both creators and consumers. Retailer censorship is when a store, such as the Steam video game store, chooses not to sell a product, like the recent hyper-violent video game Hatred. Now, this is unfortunate for the game, but there's also not a whole lot we can do about it other than force Steam to sell the game, and I don't think anybody wants to go there. Beyond, of course, simple human rights, common sense laws like if you sell a product, you have to sell it to people without discrimination based on things like their race or sexuality. But like literally nobody would ever contest that that was true, right, Indiana? Good retailers, of course, have a system of policies in place so that when they refuse to sell a product, there's like a very good reason for it. They're like, no, we said we're not going to sell these types of things, and then it's all consistent and everybody's like, okay. In the end, censorship takes many forms, and while government censorship is the worst and should never be tolerated, it takes a lot of other forms that all too often are carried out under the guise of protecting the children. The problem is that protection comes according to a set of rules and morality that not everyone agrees with, and so it can be harder for creators to spread a message that might be slightly uncomfortable for some audience members, but might ultimately be beneficial as well. In the end, I think we're already seeing the solution to all this gain more and more of a foothold. With the advent of the internet and the host of content critics it has spawned, people are more and more likely to ignore arbitrary rating systems and just go see what their favorite YouTuber or blogger has to say instead. Like if you know that a movie is rated R, but I talk about it in a video and I say, you know, it's rated R, but like I'd take my 10-year-old kid to see it, then you can make that decision for yourself. I think we're getting closer and closer to a society where people can find the content creators that match their own moral standards, and they're just going to be better informed. And that's a good thing. Yay. And while that can create problems too, like when big publishers start to buy the influence of YouTubers, that's a subject for another video. As always, Rebels, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you tomorrow. Maybe. Bye!